Welcome back. It's still the breakfast in Plus TV Africa. Moving on to our first conversation of the day. The General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, has ruled oil theft in the country, warning that Nigeria might go bankrupt if the trend is not checked. He also raised concerns over the country's economic future, warning that Nigeria's debt-to-service revenue ratio might pose danger for decades. Now, the revered preacher also spoke about the 2023 election, urging Nigerians, especially his congregation, to take part in the political process. He believes those who do not vote during elections should not complain about how the country is conveyed. Now, Pastor Adeboye, however, clarified that his position has nothing to do with partisan politics. Joining us on this conversation is a political affairs analyst, Nick Agule. Good morning to you, Mr. Agule. Thanks for joining us on The Breakfast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's just talk about this whole conversation, which has been trending since yesterday. Pastor Enoch Adeboye is a revered preacher, and he has a massive followership. He's talked about so many things. He talked about the 2023 election. I just want to start with what he said concerning the issue of oil theft, that if it is not checked, Nigeria might just be going bankrupt anytime soon. Do you share similar fears?
Yes, Nigeria is actually at the brink of bankruptcy, if we're not already bankrupt. So the views echoed by the revered religious leader are apt. And the issue of oil theft is a big shame. A big shame because it makes a statement on the political leadership in Nigeria. It makes a statement on the state of our security architecture, because you can never have a country where up to 80% or 90%, as some of the operators are saying, oil production is stolen. What does that mean? And this is a country that revenue is a problem. So instead of the government tackling an issue like that head on, that nobody can come onto the sovereign territory of Nigeria and steal oil and go free, the government rather is looking at citizens who are already impoverished and talks about increasing taxes as a way of boxing ourselves out of the revenue quagmire. So the views by the revered pastor are very correct, and I hope it will spur this government into action. Because if we spend money to produce oil and we allow that oil to be stolen, it is just an open door we have left for thieves. But if we close that gap, if we really close it, then Nigeria will make a lot more money than even the taxes they want to strangulate the citizenry for.
Okay, so Nick Agule, let's also look at another part of this, because, this conversation is encompassing. And just yesterday, as you know, the pastor was talking, and during that Thanksgiving service, he made several comments. He said a lot of things. One of the things that he said was the fact that he should not be distracted with politics. He should not be distracted with politics. Another thing he also said was him not being certain whether or not the 2023 elections, would hold, because he's not heard from God yet. He's not certain yet. He's not certain, and so he should not be distracted. That's also another concern. So, but the big question here is, should religious leaders be involved? This conversation is very old, but it's up again. Should religious leaders be involved in politics? We also, I don't know if you have heard about the imam who criticized, who spoke, about, the current situation of our country, security situation. And we also have reports saying that he's been suspended or probably demoted. So the question that I'm putting to you this morning is, do you think that religious leaders should be part of politics, our politics?
The answer to the question is yes. Religious leaders are spiritual leaders of people. And when they see the people suffering, the people being killed, the people going through all sorts of stress, then what sort of preaching are they going to make to these people for them to hear? A man who is hungry, a student who is at home because the universities are closed, someone who is sick, has no access to healthcare, somebody who has no job. What are you preaching to them that they are going to hear? Because, like we talk about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these are the basic physiological needs that people must first fulfill before they think about any other thing. You know, so I'm not a Muslim, but as a Christian, I can say that Jesus Christ is the one that set up Christianity, and he was very much involved in the politics of his day, very much involved. So if anybody says religious leaders should not be involved in politics, I'm not sure what Prophet Muhammad did during his time, but I am 100% sure about what Jesus Christ did as captured in the Bible, that he didn't only come preaching. He was, in fact, it was because of his involvement in the political matters of his day that led to his trial and eventual execution. So a Christian is somebody who should model his life after Jesus Christ. And Pastor Adeboye is being a true Christian by also getting involved in the politics of the day.
But he's saying that he should not be distracted. That's what he's saying, that he should not be joined. That's not his calling. Don't join me with politics. That's not my calling. And so it's quite confusing at this point.
I'm not sure, Pastor, except the revered pastor has been misquoted. Otherwise, we saw a communication that emanated from the Redeemed Christian Church of God, which he superintends over, and that communication has not been debunked or refuted by the church. And in that communication, the church was setting up a department for political affairs, a department that is to mobilize their membership to be part of the political process. There is absolutely no problem with a religious leader mobilizing their people to come out and do their basic civic responsibilities or duties, like registering to vote, coming out to vote for the right candidates, not selling their votes, and ensuring that we are going to solve this problem. You see, the religious leaders cannot be dealing with the outcome of bad leadership in Nigeria, because when they go on the pulpit and they are preaching against the bad leaders. They are calling on, like Pastor Duboye was saying, you were talking about oil theft, that is not being arrested. You're talking about borrowing that, is sinking us down. This is after the fact. The real cause of the problems that Pastor Duboye was talking about is bad leadership.
Okay, sorry. Let's begin to look at the statement as he actually made it. Now, he mentioned that he was not in any race and has never voted because politicians who are members of the church are all his children, and therefore he would not vote for any. He, however, advised his members, the members, to get their voters card, cast their ballot for the right choice, and stay at the polling station for counting and get the result of those they voted for. You have made reference to Jesus. A good thing you say you're a Christian, and you said that, Jesus was also part involved in politics and that Christians should be. But how do we now describe this? Because I think that this is really confusing. If you say that religious leaders should be involved in politics, on the one hand, he's talking about government policies. On the other hand, he's saying he's never voted because all his children, all those who are vying for political office are probably his children, and he can't vote for any of them. So what do you make of all of this?
Okay, so the first part of the speech made by the revered pastor, that he has not voted, is not right. He should vote, because even if two of his children, assuming two of Redeemed Christian Church of God members, are standing for election, He knows them. He knows which of them is going to deliver the most dividends of democracy to the people. So he has to lead by example. Because if he doesn't vote, then as well, how can his members also vote? Because the members are also brothers and sisters to these candidates who have stood for election. So that is not a good example. And my advice to the revered pastor is that he doesn't have to come out and tell us who he voted for, because that is why a ballot is secret. But he has to go out and vote. He has to go out and stand by the queue, so that he will encourage his other. I mean, the most perfect message you can pass to any of your followers is the one that you show by example, by doing it yourself. That is the most powerful message you can pass. Now, on the other side of his speech, which he said his leaders, his followers should go out, register to vote, and then watch their votes, is apt. This is what is expected of us in Nigeria. Every citizen must carry their voter's card, and go out to vote. There are issues that people will confront you with if you tell them to go and register to vote. One, they will tell you that votes don't count. But that is a fallacy. Since 1999, when we started this democratic dispensation, votes have been counting. And the electoral process has been getting better and better. And for 2023, we have a brand new electoral law that has things like electronic transmission of results. That is an innovation that was never there before. What then that means is that for every voter, when you go to your polling unit and you vote, and they count the votes right there, and you see the result, then the result is transmitted automatically, electronically, to the INEC portal. So you can follow your result at your polling unit to that portal. Because where they were rigging elections was when they took all the results into what they call the collation unit. And they always did this collation overnight. Then all of us, we lost track of our polling unit result, because they will now be announcing the results on local government basis. So this is how the electoral law is bringing transparency into the process. The other thing that people will talk about is they say, even if you have a voter's card, there are not going to be good candidates to vote for. But that is also a fallacy. There are always good candidates. The problem in Nigeria is that the two major parties in Nigeria, the PDP and the APC, it's as if they have apathy to good candidates. They always offer bad candidates. But with our voters' card, we can follow good candidates to fringe parties. There are, I think, over 20 parties in Nigeria. And you have good people standing on the tickets of some of these parties, and we can troop and vote them. And that means we kick out APC or PDP. This is democracy. It is what we want as a people that we're going to do it. And a good example of how this has been done is in Anambra State. The Anambrans, because Anambra was a PDP state, and the Anambrans, they formed the third force, ABGA, and they kicked out PDP from Anambra. And they've been voting ABGA since. And look at the kind of leaders that ABGA is delivering for them. Someone like Soludo. See the way he has hit the ground running. Appointed his first team on the day of his inauguration. Nobody has ever done that in Nigeria. And before it was a week or so, the man has submitted a list of commissioners. Whereas some presidents and governors are taking 6 months to submit commissioners, Soludo has delivered it. And then look at all the other things he's doing, riding Anambra med cars, wearing Anambra clothes, eating Anambra, refusing to do. You can see a leader that is ready to go. And Anambrans got that for them. So if any Nigerian is sitting down at home on election day, then actually you are the cause of the problem. Because let me tell you one thing. Nigerians that are working in corporation, banks, telecoms, oil company, all of that, who is the person recruiting the MD and top leadership of those companies? It is the board, the highest decision-making body. But in Nigeria, we leave recruitment of the president and governors and National Assembly members to the hungry people, jobless people, those who can easily recruit with 500 naira stuck in their pocket, while we, who are the intelligent people who can see through the candidates, sit at home watching TV and doing analysis on social media.
All right,
without
Mr.
going there to
Agule.
be part of the recruitment process.
All right, Mr. Agule, so we don't completely defray from the main issue. You've said you've raised a lot of pertinent points this morning. Arguably, you talked about our elections, our votes haven't counted over the years. Some people might want to debate that. Also, you talked about the issue of the elections getting better. That's very agreeable with the new electoral act that was just passed. Of course, Nigerians are hoping that come 2023, we'll begin to see some of the desired changes that we expect in our democracy. But let's still talk about the role of religious leaders in deepening democracy right now. In as much as most pastors would come out and urge their followers, to get their PVCs, exercise their franchise, and make sure their votes count. Just where could the line be drawn as regards urging them to exercise their civic responsibility, to being partisan? Because over time, we've seen some religious leaders, some churches, who would tell their members who or what party to vote for.
Okay, so that's a touchy issue that you have raised. A religious leader is a father to all. Under his leadership, you have members of all political parties. So it is not right for a religious leader to come out and say, vote for this party or vote for that party, because automatically he's going to alienate some of his members, or he's going to exclude some of his members. So a religious leader should remain apolitical, but he has to exercise his civic duty of voting. Because when he approaches the ballot box, he's not going to tell people who he is voting for. He's only going to vote with his own conscience. Because even if you have two children, you are the biological father of two children, you within yourself know the capability of each of these children. So if you know their capability, you know their competence, you know their capacity, you know their readiness to lead, you should be able to stand before that ballot box and take a stand on one of them. Because either way, they are your two children. So the line there is that a religious leader should not use the pulpit for political campaign. But a religious leader must mobilize his people to go out and vote with their consciences and not to sell their ballot. Because you see, these politicians don't fall from the sky. The politicians are part of us. They've been part of us. We know who they are. Those who are thieves, we already know they have been thieves. Those who are doing well are running businesses, employing people, like the people, they have the mind of the people at heart. We also know them. The only problem is that the good candidates are usually muzzled out into the fringe parties. So a religious leader needs to conscientize his people by telling them that, look at the pedigree of the candidates. They have been with you. What have they done for you before? Look less at the promises that they are making. Look more at how they have been helping you in the past, and go out there and vote with your conscience. And the message that will be very okay, will be more than okay. And it will not show the religious leader breaking any barriers where he shouldn't have gone to.
Okay, so just as we sit down, I mean, I wish we had more time to talk about some of the issues, but how would you rate the involvement of religious leaders in deepening our democracy and involvement? Because this is one out of so many where you have a lot of people saying, hey, I'm not supposed to be, my business is the gospel. But we forget that we live in an economy where the policies are not spiritual. They are physical policies that would affect us. Right. So how would you rate the involvement of our religious leaders, in deepening our democracy? I mean, we're not just limiting this to, Christianity. We're also talking about, the Muslims as well.
Okay, so that's a very good question. I think if I want to assess the involvement of religious leaders in our politics, they have always been involved, but on the downstream side. Downstream side is that they allow the political leadership to emerge, and then they start preaching against the issues that are coming up. And that is where I fought, if at all, the Islamic cleric, because I listened to his speech. If at all it is only because of that speech that he's being reprimanded, then it's very wrong. That means they are muzzling his freedom of speech. He didn't say anything wrong. He was giving a direct message to the leadership of the country that they have to do better. So religious leaders have been good at preaching against bad governance. What they have not been doing before was to go upstream and try and get their members to elect the right leaders in the first place. Because if you have the right leaders, then you have no need to preach against bad governance. And that is what they are now trying to do. And it's very good that they should continue on that journey and make sure that the source of the flooding is attacked and not just being at the end of the flooding and packing out the water. Because packing out the water will continue to pack that water. So long as we are not yet switching off the source of that flooding, we will continue to pack that water out until all of us are going to leave this world. So the religious leaders are now stepping to the upstream to ensure that we install the right leaders is the right thing to do. And I think the Islamic cleric, it is very wrong for them to have reprimanded him. He didn't say anything wrong.
All right, Pastor Adeboye also raised concerns concerning issues, happening in Kaduna State. Specifically, he feels that maybe some people or group of persons are trying to isolate Kaduna. He wonders why Kaduna in particular. In your opinion, do you really think this is like a deliberate attempt to isolate Kaduna State?
I think the issues in Kaduna is that I'm going to fault the leadership of Governor El-Rufai in Kaduna. Because you see, since he came into office as the governor, I'm not in agreement with some of the steps that he has taken, especially during his second term. You see, Kaduna has a religious divide. You know, they are Muslim, they are Christians. So as a leader, you cannot come and ignore such a divide and carry on as if there is no issues. He went and selected a deputy governor who is a Muslim like him. It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's no way he will say that in the whole of the Christian people in Kaduna State, he didn't find a Christian to make deputy governor. By going to select a Muslim, it's like an affront on the people, because you know they are going to be angry. They will be aggrieved. And yet you did it without a border, you know. And then some of his actions initially, when he took over power in his first tenure, where he said, I was settling the bandits so that they don't kill my people. These are the kind of wrong messages. And so Kaduna has become a haven for terrorism and banditry. And I put that on him. But then the greater blame goes to the federal authorities. You see, the security agencies are not in the control of the state in Nigeria. They're in the control of the federal government. And I took to my social media handle and I made a statement that I watched the video of the Chief of Defense Staff visiting the wreckage of the train that was bombed. And I was expecting the Chief of Defense Staff to point his walking swagger towards the forest and command his commanders, just order his commanders and say, surround that forest and fish out whoever is in that place. I didn't hear that, you know. And then, yeah, we heard about, oh, the Air Force bombed the place. Is it bombing? The troops must put their foot on the ground, go through that forest, and flush out whoever is in that forest, giving them the option of either surrendering or being killed. That is how you do as a military, as a sovereign country. Kaduna is in the middle of Nigeria. How can some people come into the middle of Nigeria, take residence in the forest, and we are doing as if we cannot go there and flush them out? Kaduna is not Sambisa forest. It's in plain land in the middle of Nigeria. And that our military cannot go there and flush out those people is a testament on the capability of not just the military, but also their commander-in-chief.
All right, so just as we coast it down now, another issue that was raised by the pastor was the issue of the elections and whether or not the elections would actually hold. I'm sure that there probably would just be reason because of the current reality. I mean, he made reference to the economic condition, the security situation, and so should we be talking about, the elections when we have all of this reality? So, but what are your thoughts? 2023 is here. It feels like there's a lot of anxiety as whether or not we're going to have an elections.
I very much agree with the revered pastor. There is so much happening in Nigeria that no matter how optimistic you are about this country, your optimism is dampened. So much is happening. People are being killed every day. People are hungry. People don't have jobs. The price of diesel is touching 800. There's no petrol in the cars. Gas prices are up. Food prices are up. People's salaries are not being increased. So much is happening to people in Nigeria. So if you look at it, you can begin to have fears that, is Nigeria going to survive till next year, January, February, March, when we are going to hold elections? Those questions are valid. But what I would advise Pastor Adeboye and all other religious clerics, both Christians and Muslims, is that this is where their spiritual aspect needs to be called in. We all need to pray for Nigeria. We all need to pray for our country, Nigeria. We need to just continue to supplicate to God that He should keep this country intact till 2023, when we hope to have a fresh set of leaders. And if we all troop out to participate in the electoral process, then let us be confident that if we get the right set of leaders, Nigeria can be solved. So truly, where we are now in Nigeria, I mean, look at our economy. Nigeria's revenue of about 5 trillion is what the government is saying they will use to pay subsidy. So we'll carry the whole of the revenue to go and pay subsidy. And then we are now borrowing money to pay salaries. And then the inflation rate is rising. Then the unemployment rate is rising. Then the exchange rate thing is rising. There's so much to take in this country, so much to take that we all just need prayers. But prayers alone can't do this. Every citizen of Nigeria, if you don't have a voter's card, you're also part of the problem. If the electoral process is not sound, we are the ones that will make it sound. It is our participation that will make the electoral process to correct. In other countries like in the UK, where I'm speaking from, US, Canada, all those places, it is the citizens that make their democracy to deepen. The citizens don't have apathy to the democratic process, sit at home and expect the leaders to carry go. If you expect the leader to carry go, they will carry us into a bush. So it is only the citizens that can come out and say, no, this is where we want you to carry us to. And if you don't want to carry us to this place, we're not going to vote you into office, or we are going to impeach you and vote you out of office. So that participation is very important for all of us Nigerian citizens for 2023.
All right, thank you so much. Indeed, we have been speaking with Nick Agule. He is a public affairs analyst, and we have been looking at all of the issues concerning religion, religious leaders, religious organizations, and how they affect our democracy, which is no longer nascent, if I may add. Thank you so much, Nick Agule, for your time.
Thank you so very much, and have a nice day.
You too. All right, it's still the breakfast. We'll take yet another break, a very quick one. We'll come back, and a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, is in the news, and he is worried about the state of insecurity in the country. Find out more in a moment when we return. To join us again.